Are you struggling with depression? What if the key to lifting your spirits and finding hope lies in a simple change in how you manage your time? Hi, I'm Pastor Colt. Welcome to Faith-Based Mental Health. In today's episode, we're uncovering a powerful approach to tackling depression: time management. We're diving into practical, actionable strategies that will help you ground yourself in the present, break free from the past, and look forward to the future with hope and excitement. Imagine transforming your daily routine into a tool for healing and growth. From setting small, achievable goals to prioritizing self-care and connecting with loved ones, we'll show you how managing your time can make a world of difference in your mental health journey. So, if you're ready to take control of your life and find joy in each day, stick around. This episode is packed with insights and tips that you won't want to miss. Let's jump in. Welcome to Faith-Based Mental Health. I am your host, Pastor Colt, and I'm here with our co-host, Dr. Ron. How are you today, Dr. Ron?
I'm doing better than if I owned a space out on Waverly Place. And you?
I'm good. So we're still throwing it back to, I don't even know, what's that, like 2009, something like that? Last week it was Hannah Montana. This week it's Wizards of Waverly Place. Yeah.
I know that you have an affinity toward those shows, or at least you did.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
No.
trying to be more relatable to the millennial crowd right now.
That is relatable to the millennial crowd. Now, Gen Z is what in the world? If there's any Gen Zers listening, you're like, what is Wizards of Waverly? Hannah, is that Miley Cyrus? Yes, it's Miley Cyrus. Yeah, it's a little too old for some of our listeners, maybe. But I
Yeah,
feel it. I feel it.
right there,
Yeah.
in the heart. And I am still wearing the same T-shirt I had last week.
Yeah.
Not still, okay.
Right.
Anyway,
You've hopefully, yeah.
it just says I love, and then you can't really see what I love underneath. So if you think, then please let me know what you think it is. But I don't
Yeah.
want to show what's
So you can
below
just,
the.
yeah, leave it to them to guess. Is it I love Jesus? Is it I love
Is it
pizza? We talked, if we haven't, and
hot
I don't remember
dogs?
if we released that episode yet, maybe not, but about how we say I love my wife and we say I love hot dogs. And so it really could be anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Could be. Just
Man,
know that if you're listening, I love.
it's gonna be the nicest thing. Yeah. I feel good inside because I'm just assuming it's me.
Yeah, and I
Uh
love talking about depression.
Yeah, and so that's where we were. Last week we talked about, if you missed that episode, I highly recommend you go check it out. So last week we talked about depression from an energy management standpoint and how to work through your depression from that standpoint. Today we get to talk about working through your depression from a time management standpoint. And I really like these two things. I feel like those two topics have a lot in common in the sense that it seems like something I could do both, and we're going to get into how to do the time management piece today, but you're going to see, the listener's going to notice by the end of it that these are both something that we can all work on, any of us who have struggled or are struggling with any form of depression. So let's talk about working through your depression from a time management perspective. What does that look like, Dr. Ron?
I'd love to unpack that for you. As you were talking, in my mind, I was thinking that a lot of the things that we talk about today will also have applicability for treating anxiety from a time management, because some of the interventions are the same. But let's unpack that.
Awesome.
Someone who is depressed most often is stuck in the past. A sense of perceived hurt, loss, rejection, it creeps into their present experience. And oftentimes they're obsessed about things that happened in the past, with a recent past or distant past, that have been hurtful and that have caused them to feel the way that they feel. Anxious people, by contrast, are often stuck in the future. What if? What could happen? They're waiting for the shoe to drop.
It's the
You know,
unknown.
depressed
Yeah.
people are often stuck in the past. And one of the interventions that we teach in the military, we used to teach advanced suicide intervention skills training. And for doing intervention for someone who is suicidal and depressed, we would ask them the question, what caused this? Why are you feeling this way, so to speak? And we would listen to their reasons for, in that case, for suicide, for wanting to die.
Right.
So you're listening to their past experiences because you don't want to invalidate them. So you listen to enough to where you get a sense of connection. And then by talking to them about it, someone who's really gifted at intervention can ground them in the present. And what happens is, if you're depressed, what happened in the past is keeping you from experiencing joy in the present. And so if I can ground you in the present experience that you're having, then it's a win. And then really a win is if I can get you looking forward to something in the future. Now we're really making progress. So whenever I'm doing an intervention with someone who's depressed, I always ask the question, what are you looking forward to? And then how can we increase that? And there are several different interventions that we can use for that, and some that I like more than others as we unpack it. But does that answer the question?
Yeah, and would you say it's an accurate statement to say if I'm battling depression and I'm trying to work on it from a time management standpoint, it doesn't have to be, "Oh, I'm looking forward to the birth of my first child." It doesn't have to be a big momentous thing. I could simply be looking forward to having lunch with someone that I get along with, a friend, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it can be both. It can be you really, as long as it works.
If I have something to look forward to that I'm actually excited about and really looking forward to, that can help me to get to not stay in that depressed state of mind. Would that
Yeah.
be right?
Yep. Chris Rock does a special where it's impossible to frown while riding a jet ski.
Probably true. Probably
Eh,
true.
and it's you might start off frowning, but you're in the moment and you're experiencing it, and with every wave, your frown begins to turn upside down, and there you are enjoying it, mouth agape,
Yeah.
wave after wave, because 'cause you're
Some people
grounded in.
might be looking in horror in that moment, but it won't be a frown either way. It'd be something else.
Yeah, the saying is, "It's only crazy if it doesn't work." But yeah, so different tools and techniques to ground you in the present. The most common that people talk about are mental techniques, and
Mm,
I find that these are more helpful dealing with anxiety, so I won't spend too much time on it, but there are mental games that we can play. We did talk about, for example, hunting the good stuff or looking for those 3 gratitudes.
right, right.
Maintaining an attitude of gratitude is probably the most helpful mental game that you can play to defend against depression. But there are other things that can distract you from the past and ground you in the present. Just engaging in a good book. And if you don't have a good book in front of you, we used to read the back of cereal boxes before phones. Anything
I
that
don't think anyone look, I'm curious. I don't even eat cereal really anymore, but I'm gonna have to go look at Walmart or some grocery store and look at the back of a cereal box. I bet it's not near as like there used to be crossword puzzles and
oh,
games
those
and stuff on
yeah.
there. It's not even there anymore, I bet, because they're like, well, nobody's looking at it. Kids are on their phones anyway. 5-year-old's got a cell phone. Cereal has
Yeah.
probably quit all of that. It's very sad
That
to
was
think about.
riveting. That was
It was
riveting
so good.
reading.
Oh, it was so good. I couldn't actually read yet. So, for me, I was imagining what it said, but I liked the mazes. I don't what's that called? You had to draw through the maze thing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Those were good because I could do that.
Yeah. Oh, man. See, I'm right now, just, like, hearing you talk about that, it's grounding me in the
Yeah.
present, and I actually
Yeah.
feel pretty good right now.
I feel a sense of happiness. I don't know where that came from, but it's just I guess it's there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
I don't know
So
if that was
there
a grounding technique or not, but it was something.
hey, it's working for me. I'm feeling
Yeah.
better. We talked about expectation management, expecting the good. These are all mental things, and really to really go into depth would take more than what we have time for. Another one is just physical activity, and not just working out at the gym, but what can you do to ground yourself in the present? Physically speaking, there's a lot of people who will pray the rosary, for example,
Yeah.
will do some adult coloring, knitting, crocheting. I'll unpack these more in depth when we talk about anxiety reduction, but they also have some benefit for the depression.
So do artistic things possibly fall into that? If it's a hobby, if it's work, that might be a little different, but if it's like for a hobby, painting or something artistic, would that fall into this maybe?
I got to tell you, and I think most people would agree with me who are in the same art realm that I am. If you're watching on the video, I'm just covered
Yeah.
in musical equipment. For me, it is musical expression is both spiritual and therapeutic.
Mm.
So for me, that artistic expression absolutely
Ah,
fits that mold. And I'm sure it's that way for other people as well. It grounds me in the now. It enables me to actually even process the past because I can say through lyrics things that I've been thinking and feeling. So it's a very powerful tool. Now, the most powerful tool for treating depression, for grounding in the present, I'd say the second most powerful tool. I'd like to do almost a whole episode on the most powerful tool, but the second most powerful tool,
Mm.
and it is a takeoff the first most powerful tool, but it's connection. Connecting with other human beings grounds you in the present like nothing else can. So you remember the story that I told the last episode of how I was in Saddam's barracks and I was curled up in the fetal position with a cold sweat. Again, not wanting to kill myself, but I would be okay if I didn't wake up kind of experience dark night of the soul. In my mind, there was a face of a person, and this was another chaplain who was coming through the base for a short period of time, and I knew where he was sleeping that night. And I knew that if it came to it, I could go knock on his door. If it really got scary where I thought I was going to do something
Yeah.
about the way I was feeling that would essentially be a permanent solution to what ended up being a temporary problem. So just his face, just the notion that I could go there was enough to get me through the dark night of the soul. And so it is with depression. Depression often isolates people. And we talked about that with the last episode, how depressed people have a hard time with energy management. With, I know I need to call my friend, I know I need to go out, and I know I need to connect, but I just don't have the energy kind of concept. And so if you are able to connect, this is also a time management principle in that it grounds you in that moment with that person.
We talk about having someone to be there for you. That person wasn't even physically there with you, encouraging you, nothing like that, but you knew that somebody cared. So am I correct in saying that it's oftentimes enough for someone who's depressed to at least know that there's people who care about them, as long as you're willing to focus on that? If you don't think about those people during that dark night of the soul, that probably doesn't help at all. So if I'm depressed, I don't know, the Bible talks about focusing on whatever is good, whatever is lovely, whatever is basically just these different types of good things that we should think on such things. So if I'm depressed, remember the people who truly care about me. Remember the people who have my back, who love me. Would that be right?
Yeah, I think for some folks that's enough. Certainly not for everyone is that
Right.
enough. There are
Right.
other interventions that are needed for other people, but for some folks, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
A- And I get it. It's like depression makes you feel like there's no one there. One of the exercises is if we realize that depression sometimes comes in cycles, when you are up, when you do have a little bit of energy, it really behooves you to play a little bit of defense, to sit down and list out who are my, no kidding, 3 a.m. knock on their door people.
Mm.
Most people, when they're in a depressive episode, they fundamentally believe that they are completely alone. But if they're out of their depressive episode, then they can rationalize and go, actually, no, I've got this person, I've got that person, I've got this person, and they're all there to support me. And I talk about in my philosophy of relationships, having concentric circles of people within your social sphere, and I find that to be super helpful to sit down and actually chart those relationships and then to do something about it.
You mentioned how when you're in that depressed state of mind, it might be hard to see who are those people who really care about you. Would it be accurate to say, and I think maybe it's already been said, but just to reiterate, when you are in that depressive episode or a depressed state of mind, don't make any major decisions because you're not thinking clearly.
It is. We haven't talked about my favorite type of people, and that's the bipolar part where it's way up and way down and way up and way down. Hopefully, we'll have some time to unpack that. Those are my favorite type of people.
I did not know that those were your favorite people.
Oh, I
So that's
love them.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
love them. Most people have a tendency to not know how to act or respond to someone who's depressed, and so they
Okay.
tend to push away. And a lot of times when people come into counseling and they are vulnerable enough to say that they're depressed, they expect the same reaction to me, but I run toward depression, because I know that for a lot of people, there's a flip side of that depression. And that flip side enables people who have experienced depression to see the world in a light that no one else can see.
Mm,
Some of the greatest movers and shakers of the entire human history have struggled mightily with this concept of bipolarism. And I could list example after example. It's just safe to say that we would not be enjoying the life that we enjoy now if it were not for some very influential bipolar people that I've been able to trace and study throughout history. So, yeah, should you make major life changes when you're depressed? Here's what I tell pastors. I get a chance to talk to a lot of pastors. Never quit on a Monday. A lot of pastors have their identity wrapped up in their ministry, and that's a problem because it
yeah,
shouldn't be.
yeah.
And if there's low attendance or whatever,
Or the
then
sermon didn't go right, or
yeah, it
yeah, yeah.
fell flat. Then they're depressed on Monday, but then Tuesday rolls around. Someone can say the same for depression. Major life altering decisions when you don't really have the energy to potentially think them through from a rational perspective can be problematic. So yeah, I think you're spot on. Now, from a practical standpoint, there could be some limitations and some decisions that have to be made,
Sure, sure.
but insofar as you're able to know yourself and know that you might be thinking clearer by the end of the day or within a week or so, then yeah, sure, if you can put them off.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, and I don't mean don't make decisions at work. Don't make some sort of big change. Don't, break up with someone. Don't cut a friend off. Don't make some big life change while you're in that depressed state of mind. You don't have to do that. Can wait
Yeah,
until you're
yeah, and
thinking
the
clearly.
flip side, don't propose.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm not gonna do any better than this. Like, I'm in a depressed mood, I might as well settle. Yeah,
Better
you
than
know,
nothing.
I'm not saying either of our wives have done that, but yeah, that
Oh,
would be another
man.
life-changing one.
That
Uh,
explains a lot. Not about my wife, about your wife. That explains a lot. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Alright, so what else as far as depression from a time management standpoint? Is there anything else that we can be doing or that we should do?
no, it's a pretty basic and simple concept.
Yeah,
And I can summarize it with these simple words: stay in your time zone. That's it. Don't rob yourself of the joy of the moment because of something that happened in the past. Don't
yeah.
give someone that much power over you.
Mm,
Stay in your time zone and choose to experience the moment right here and right now. And that's the whole gist of it, of time management piece. So if you find yourself hyper focused on the past, you can actually tell yourself the things that you have to tell yourself to avoid that. You can say to yourself, what's in the past is in the past.
yeah.
You can say to yourself things that, like, Alcoholics Anonymous makes a big deal out of the serenity prayer. Help
Mm.
me to let go of the things I can't control, the things that I can control. And one of the things you can't control is what happened in the past.
Even if it's a mistake that you made, you can't go back and undo that, and chances are you're not the same person today that you were back then anyway, so don't judge and blame today's you for what you did a couple of years ago. That was a different you, and so focus on the here and now and what you can do today to make today a great day, and to make your life as good as it can be. Only 2 time zones to focus on in my mind if you're someone who's battling depression. And the most important one's the present, but it is okay to also focus on the future as you look forward to those good things. That be right?
Couldn't have said it better.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Dr. Ron, then I'll just say I've enjoyed this conversation with you, and I really appreciate the time you've taken to teach us these great lessons. And to the listener, if you've heard this and you're someone who's battling with depression or who has battled with depression, please stay tuned. We're going to keep talking a little bit more about depression in the next episode. But also, if you'd like to talk to someone, do jump over to our website, serenitycarecounseling.com. We want to be a resource for you. We want to help you, whether that means you want to talk to a counselor or a life coach, or maybe that just means you want to check out some of the resources that we have there. We are your resource. We're here for you. Thank you, listener. Thank you, Dr. Ron. See you next time.
Aloha.